Is he there?
He's still lagging, isn't he?
Aye.
There was some freeze frame there, wasn't it?
Oh, hello and welcome to the Rangers Rabble podcast. I'm Martin Douglas. Oh, I was eating
Your pizza finished.
I'm not even supposed to be on. Hello and welcome along. I'm joined by Scott, Alan and Stephen. Guys, pull me out a hole. How are you?
We're good, Joe.
Very good, Mark.
Digested the dinner?
No, I've got a chip stuck in my tooth as we speak.
You're looking for a rainy.
I'm dying for a drink of juice as well. For anybody watching, we are live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, so give us a wee follow, subscribe, like, share and whatever else you want to say towards that. We'll jump right in, and I'm just looking at William's agenda, and obviously the first item on that is Jermaine Defoe has signed a new contract as a player coach. Scott, I think a lot of us were expecting Jermaine Defoe to leave, but it's really good to see him signed up at least for another season anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a really good move by the club and by the player himself. I think he brings experience to the squad, just in and around the place. He brings experience with the young guys, even the older guys in the team. It's good to have on the bench, as you know. He can come on and score a goal. He's probably still the best striker at Ibrox finishing wise. And if he's trying to be a player coach in the future or manager, even then, it's good to start somewhere, getting his badges and stuff. So it's good to have him at Ibrox for another year at least.
Right, I'm going to try and bring back in William. I'm praying that this works because I am starving. So, William Irwin, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. What about yourself?
I'm not too bad, mate. Can I leave the podcast in your very capable hands?
Well, I don't know. It's a brand new laptop, so we'll see. I was trying to get it set up, but everything like technology is, it takes time.
Right, no worries. I shall leave you in the hands. I just started speaking there, obviously, about Jermaine Defoe signing his new contract, so you can take it away, bud.
All right, cheers, mate. Right, sorry about that. I just got a new laptop a couple of days ago, so trying to kind of get used to it and trying to get all the internet set up. It's never much fun, but we'll jump straight in. Jermaine Defoe, new player coach. Stevie, what do you think?
Aye, it's good. It's good news. I wasn't sure if they were going to get over the line or what the script was and maybe what his position on it was, to be honest, but I'm delighted to get him back for another year. I'm chuffed that he's up for in a coaching role as well. I think it's good for him. It's good for the players around the place. And because I was thinking about it the day, and I don't know, maybe William, you'll be able to fill us in a bit more. And I can't remember the last time we brought through a striker for the youth setup as well. So if we can maybe get Defoe in there and actually try to pull on these younger boys as strikers and actually get one back in the first team, that'd be great. So, and I was looking at some of his stats. I think it was like 25 goals in 52 games, and that's probably 52 games. It's actually like 15 minutes off the bench at the end of the game and stuff like that. So it's incredible numbers he's got. Great guy to have around the place, great experience, and seems a very likeable guy as well, to be honest. And he's always does stuff around about the club and that. So I'm delighted to have him back up the place for another year at least.
Right, Scotty, what about yourself, mate? How do you feel about Jermaine signing for another year as part of the coaching staff as well?
I think it's a great move, like I said earlier. I think it's great he's signed. I mean, he's one of these guys, no matter where he's been, he's done really well. And Rangers is the same. He's come on, albeit he came in a time at January, we weren't playing that well, but he's come in, we've won the league this season, well, last season, and he's stayed for another year. Being a coach is a good move for him, I think, because he'll maybe want to eventually go down the road of a manager, coach at another team back in England, but getting the badges and stuff and getting involved with young lads because he's got tons of experience to pass on. Like Stephen said, he seems really likeable and everybody seems to like him. Nobody's got a bad word about him. And he's still probably one of the fittest guys at the club and probably, like I said earlier, probably still the best finisher at the club as well.
What type of coaching capacity do you think he'll take on, Alan? Do you think it'll be with the first team, or do you think there might be some work with like the academy as well?
I think it's going to be a bit of both. I was reading Gerrard's comments on it before we came on. I think Gerrard says something he's going to be passing on his attacking knowledge. He's going to be passing on his attacking knowledge to all the attackers at the club. So I think he's going to be working with everybody in a sort of maybe a mentorship role for the first team and spending a bit of time with the young lads. We saw the relationship that he's got with Morelos. I'm sure he's building up relationships with other forward-thinking players as well. So I think as far as the first team's concerned, his role might not change that much because he's been doing the job anyway. But it'll be good to have him in and around the training centre, working with the younger players as well. So I think that's where he'll probably cut his teeth in the coaching game as well.
Yeah, he's obviously very fortunate, to get his first coaching job at a club like Rangers. He's obviously still going to add something to the first team when required, but I think the big thing is that experience that he can pass on to the younger players. And I think it's clear to everybody that he's obviously helped Alfredo, which was a big thing. Maybe settled him down maybe about 1%, but it still helps when it comes to Alfredo. But I think overall, everybody's just delighted that he's staying. And he's a great fit for the club and how he speaks and how he, everything about him. He's just got a certain class about him. And I think at a club size, it's important that we have people like that in the club. Right, moving on to the next subject. Obviously, Bongani, Zungu and Greg Stewart. Moving on. I know that's probably not a huge surprise to anybody. But do you feel like maybe Greg Stewart and Zungu didn't get a proper chance this season? I'll come to you first, Stevie.
With Zungu, you're probably right in a sense that he never got as much minutes and enough time to really show what he can do. At times it did look like there was a bit of a player in there. He was obviously tidy with the ball at his feet and he could pass forward, and maybe that's the sort of thing that were attracted to him in the first place, but it just never seemed to happen for him, didn't it? After the St Mirren game as well, I think he came on and started. It might have been his first start as well. I think he really struggled to kind of get back into it at that point. So I think all round for both parties, it's probably best that maybe he goes back to France and tries to get another club somewhere or another season back at his the team we got him on loan for. So I know, did he sign a new deal, I think, before he came here? Another year's contract, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think he signed for another year, didn't he? So that when the loan ran out, they would still have a year on the contract.
Aye, to try and pay for him if we wanted him, sort of thing. So I think it's for the best. I'm sad to see Stewart go though as well. I can understand why. I don't think he's really going to fit into the team. But another guy who seems like a nice guy to have around the place, a guy that's probably lived the dream as well, and he's not done himself any disservice at all when he's been here. He's came on and done a job whenever he can, and I seriously think he'll be able to go to another team in the SPL and be able to do a good turn for anybody, to be honest, because he's a good football player, and he's came on and done a good job for us. So I hope he goes on and does well, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think that's always important, isn't it? When players kind of leave like that, you want to kind of show them the respect they deserve. And Greg was basically here for a few years, and like he never complained about anything. He just came in and trained every day. When he was called upon, he did well. And I think it's right that these guys leave with a winners' medal, and I think that's important, especially for Greg. Scott, what about Bongani Zungu? Did you expect more from him?
At the start, like Stephen said, first few appearances he's done, you think there's a player there, but to be honest with you, Willie, over the piece, there wasn't any betterment we had, and if we want to improve ourselves as a club in whole, we have to sign betterment we've got, and there's not any betterment was there, so there's no point spending money out for somebody that's not going to improve you. So I'll probably say the right decision was to let him go.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you're probably spot on. When he was brought in, it sort of felt like maybe he was going to replace somebody, especially the fact that the club had agreed this fee. But it just kind of never really came to fruition, did it? Right, we'll kind of skip on to the next subject, because I think this is the one that will probably take the longest to talk about. Ross Wilson, on one of the recent seminars, was talking about how the network's changing and how the club's changing. And obviously recently we've been linked with Joey Veerman, Abdu Haroy, Salah Ozkan and Ivan Lepinjika. I probably murdered all their names, but I tried my best. Is this like the way that the club's going to run now? Or do you think we're going to see change, Alan, this season in particular, because we've now got players at the Euros?
I think this is going to be the way the club's running. We kind of got a hint of that when Gerrard first came in, and we brought in Barisic and Katic. And if I remember rightly, Gerrard said, markets like the Croatian market, that's where we were going to be looking. We're now looking at the European, the major European market, if you like, but at a lower level. They're the kind of players we need to bring in. We need to bring in the type of players that might not be attracting big interest yet. We bring them in, polish them up, they improve, and we might be able to sell them on, hopefully be able to sell them on for a profit. That'll work sometimes, it won't work sometimes. You know, we've seen it working with Barisic, and we probably would have seen it work with Katic if it wasn't for his injury. But for every Barisic, there's a Bongani Zungu. We can't expect, if we're bringing these players in for these markets, we can't expect every single one of them to come in and become a first team player and be a massive addition to the club. There's going to be players that don't make it. You know, even in the UK, we saw Shea Ojo and the boy Jaria, who just, Rangers wasn't the club for them. Not to say they're no good players, same with Zungu, but it just didn't work for them for whatever reason. So we're going to have to be patient. We're going to have to accept that no every player we sign for these kinds of markets is going to be the kind of player that we talk about selling on for 20, 25 million pounds like we do with some of the players we have bought.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Scott, what about yourself? Have you been impressed with who you've been linked with, and that some of them are like obviously under 21 nationals for their country?
To be honest with you, well, like yourself, I don't really know anything about the guys you've been linked with. I've looked at the names, but I don't know a lot about them. But scouting wise, you find a lot of clubs nowadays, they're going down the scouting route of, like, it's like a Moneyball effect. It's all stats. Look at players, and you look at players either at an age level or a value bracket, and then you get their stats over a piece, maybe monthly stats, weekly stats, and then you either send somebody and look at them, or you just bring them in because they've been consistent 7 or 8s over a certain time. So I know Ross works that way at times. I know he done that at Huddersfield. So I think that's the way it goes. So you're going to end up with guys that you've never heard of because you can get information on players all over the world without even going to see them anymore. So scouting has changed in a big way, and it's a good thing. But it's also, I'm more kind of old school. I like to go and see somebody play, but other people can pick players for stat sheets and stuff like I mean with the money ball. So that's the way it's going.
Yeah, like it does seem that way, doesn't it? When you watch how well Brentford done in the Championship with the whole money ball kind of way concept of doing things, it's clearly an idea that more clubs I think are going to look at in the coming years. What about, you know, we've been linked with another Croatian player, a kind of holding midfield player, maybe as a replacement potentially for somebody like Glenn Kamara. Is that exciting to be linked to like a Croatian under 21 international, knowing how well we did so far with Katic and with Barisic? I'll come to you first, Stevie.
Yes, I think so. I know a lot of the fan base has been screaming out for us to try and tap into those sort of markets, the sort of Croatian, like we've done with Barisic and Katic and stuff like that, but the sort of Croatian youth market, like Finland, these sort of Scandinavia countries as well have been screaming out to get into those sort of markets. So I think what it does it takes investment for the club, and that's one thing the club has to be applauded for, because they've obviously put the money in to get the network, to grow the network and to get more links and contacts out there, and they've done well on that sort of behalf. And it always is exciting when you're getting linked to an under 21 internationalist, because you're hopeful that this guy can come in and really start going up the levels with you and with our club. So like, you don't really know much about them, there's that sort of excitement as well. So I'm delighted that we're actually doing it, and we've had some good, and like the guys are saying there, I think there's a balance. I think Brentford, they've went right down the Moneyball route, and that's what they focus on. But I think there's definitely a balance to have that side of things, but also your old school going and your contacts and actually going watching players play, because like we've had a good success. Like I think probably Philip Palanda was a complete scouting job. Like not many people, I don't think, would know him. That must have been a sort of contacts in Italy, I'd imagine, and it's worked out well for us. So it's exciting, and it just shows the sort of levels again the club's going up in. Like when they're investing and getting the contacts out there and bringing in players for countries and that people don't really watch or have much knowledge of the players there. So it just shows how much we're actually putting into it, and it's great to see, to be honest.
I noticed one of the other names we're linked with, I think he plays for the Germany under 21s, is Salah Ozcan. Alan, do you know much about him at all, or is that just maybe kind of viewing on YouTube like everybody else?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I'd never heard of him before or linked to him. Went on and had a look, as you do. Have a look at internet pages, the stories about him, have a look at YouTube and what have you. It's hard to tell with these type of players. I said that a few weeks ago in the pod. It's hard to tell looking at a highlights package what kind of player he's going to be, but it doesn't surprise me that we're looking at more central midfield type players, which I believe he is. As you say, we're going to be looking at replacing somebody like Kamara, possibly. So it's the type of player I expect to be looking at.
I think with that one as well, mate, like I'm similar to you. I've no heard of him at all, but if what I've read is right, is that a free transfer he's coming in as, and there's that sort of side that it's maybe a bit like low risk if you can get these guys in quite a free sort of cheaper price coming in. I mean, it takes away a lot of risk and like you're not spending millions on these guys and hoping they're actually going to sort of grow. It's kind of that side of things is good, but like you say, it's completely unknown. Into you don't, except for a couple of minutes YouTube clips where everybody looks like superstars into it.
We have to go with that model because we have to look at younger players. Even I think we will get midfielders, and even if Kamara stays, Davis and Arfield are getting on in age. But we need to look at young players coming in because if you can get a good couple of years out of them and sell them for a profit, that's a model we have to do. But we're not a club with hundreds of money, so we have to do that. I know fans don't like us to say, well, there's no other club bigger than Rangers, players shouldn't leave. And we all think that, but we all know they get attracted to English Premiership or somewhere else. They get tons of money, so it's easy to move on and for players. But if you can buy a player in for 2 million, or even like you say, Stephen, free, and sell him for 5-10 million later down the line, that's the way we have to work it. That's the way the club has to go, and I'm happy if we do that because it means the player does well for us as well. We always hear.
Aye,
you're right, and it's the kind of market that you hit the nail on the head. Whether we like to admit it or not, we're going to have to sell players on. Dave King told us that a couple of months ago. Was it December? He says we're going to have to sell players. That's where we are just now as a club. One day we'll hopefully be in the position where we don't need to sell players. We can give them contracts to keep them happy, keep them at Rangers long term. But right now we're looking to sell players. And I mean, the prime example, we'll go back to Glenn Clara. We signed him for 50 grand. If we get anywhere in the region of £10 million for him, if he does go, I don't want to see him go, but we can't turn that kind of money down. It's fantastic business for the club. And that's the players we're going to be looking at. These guys that are coming in. Sakala's another one. If he comes in, he comes in on a freebie, couple of years out of him, he impresses scouts down south, and they want to come in with big money. Who are we to stand in their way as well? They've no emotional connection to Rangers. They've absolutely no emotional connection to Rangers as well. So if they want to go and play in the English Premier League, who are we to stand in their way if we're getting good money for them? We just need to accept that.
Talk Sport then Stuart Pearce was talking. He actually mentioned Rangers when he was at Nottingham Forest. He came in for him, and he actually wanted to come, but obviously he didn't want to say to Brian Clough he wanted a transfer fee. Wanted to leave because he said Clough they went nuts. But he said at the time Butch was captain England, and all the England players at the time were saying, "What are you getting at Rangers?" Butch was getting paid a lot more at Rangers than other players in England were getting paid at the time playing for England. So it shows you how times have changed. We used to be bankrolling money, and now we're having to do the opposite and sell players on just so we can bring others in. That's the way football's went, I'm afraid, and it's all down to money. It's nothing else.
Right, gents, I am supremely underprepared for this. My hair's a mess, the shave. I don't have an agenda. So if anybody in the comments wants to seriously help me out with some questions, please do send them in. I'll try and get William Irwin back as soon as I possibly can, but I'm going to have to use all my 5 minutes of experience hosting these things as I possibly can. Now, I caught the end of your conversation there about Ross Wilson, and I'm not sure if William's asked this, so if he has, I do apologise. But overall, Stephen, what do you make of the job that Ross has done so far since he's came in?
I think he's done a good job, and I bet you don't probably see half the stuff he actually does behind the scenes and stuff like that as well. So I think it's a hard job to do. It's about knitting the whole club together and making sure that all the cogs work and all the wheels are turning, sort of thing. But on a signing front, I think he's done well. I think he's also done well to get guys out the door and actually try and get some money in, and also get players out in loan deals and stuff like that as well. So these guys earn the money in the transfer window as well. It's probably where everyone sees and rates them. And so far, he's done well. I think we've had a good. He's been a good appointment, and he's added to the club. And he's another guy who is worked down south. It was at Southampton, and obviously seen the sort of standards and the levels that they've done as a professional. at that sort of like Premier League level and brought that to us, and he's raised it. I think the guys have talked about like constantly raising the levels, even like things like putting the new pitch in again in the summer there. I think it's a better standard pitch and all these sort of things, and just raising the club, every wee aspect of the club up. So I'm delighted he's here, and I hope he's here for longer, and I hope he has another good window and we can get a good couple of players in.
Right, well, actually, I've got about 4 or 5 questions that have just come in that I could easily go on with, but I see William Irwin's back, and it looks as though his internet might be working quite well. So, Mr. Irwin, how's it going?
Boys.
Aye, I think the actual internet might be kind of partially down in my area, so I've plugged it straight into the router. So,
well, you look so much better. I've just asked Stephen the overall job he's made what Ross Wilson's done so far, but yet again, I'm going to leave you to it because
thank God.
Seriously, thank God you're right. Before I go, people watching, although this has been a bit up and down tonight, subscribe, like, share, and also get your comments in. Wally, there's a good couple of questions in the comments, so if you want to look to that, then by all means fire away. If Wally cuts out again, I'll be back.
Sorry about that, guys. Actually, I think the internet in my area is not
Your
the best.
Comeback to Neil Lennon.
The joys of staying in Renfrewshire, mate, it's always a bit downtrodden when it comes to
I'm only down the road, Willie, and I'm fine.
I know, you're in a posh area, mate. I'm no, so it's fine. No, look, I think it's fair to say that Ross Wilson has done a great job in terms of the scouting, in terms of the new people that are part of the scouting department. We seem to be going in a different direction now, which I think is really important. Because I think maybe in the past we've tried to, sort of keep a lot of our recruitment within Britain, but it just feels like the cost of that's going up and up and up in terms of like wages for players, whereas you can go to places like Holland and Croatia and maybe pick up players who will come here for lesser wages. I mean, somebody like a Barisic, how much would a Barisic have cost if you hadn't got him from Croatia? You look at the quality he's got and his age, he would have been hitting close to his peak. And I think that's one of the big things where you can go and try and maybe steal 1 or 2 players and bring them in at a lower cost from our point of view. And I think that is really, really important. Is there anybody so far that we've been linked with this summer, Alan, that you've been impressed with?
To be honest, I don't really know that much about the guys we've been linked with. We just mentioned that. Other than YouTube videos here or there, I don't know that great deal about them. Other than, is it Lundstrom that was at Sheffield United, who doesn't excite me too much, to be honest with you. The one that we've spoke about in the group chat a wee bit is Ali McCann. We spoke about wanting to bring in young players, that central midfield type role. Kamara might go. Davis is only going to have a couple of years left at best. That's probably the one that would excite me the most if we were to bring him in right now, without knowing who else we're going to look at in the future. Because I don't think he would come in and be the first team player next season, but I think he could come in and be a first team regular for us in the future, and I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. So he's probably the one that would excite me the most.
Yeah, look, I think the only problem with somebody like Ali McCann could potentially be the cost. If they're looking at upwards of £2.5 million, I think when they're talking about like also the young German lad Ozcan, I believe he would be a free agent. So the club could basically go out and sign a German under 21. And last one, I know he's 23, and this is like the Edward thing where guys are still playing for the under 21s at 23. But if he's coming in a free, but we need to give him good wages, would you rather do that with somebody like that, Scott, or would you rather go and bring in Ali McCann who knows Scottish football, but would cost more in terms of the transfer fee?
I'd probably pick a German lad myself. I've seen McCann a few times. I think he's decent. I've not been bowled over with him like a lot of folk in the chat, but that's just my opinion. We've all got different opinions on players. That's football is all about. But I'd probably go with a lad for Germany, but I'd have to know more about it myself before I say a definite yes. The lad I like is Alan Campbell at Motherwell.
Right, okay.
People might say he's not good enough, but he's left Motherwell, so he's going to be free. He's going to be free. So he's not going to, I don't know if we'll take into consideration, because he's been there since a boy, maybe you have to pay so much through because he's trained there as a kid, so you have to pay money for that. But I think he'd be a good gamble for us. I don't know if anybody else agree, but I like Alan Campbell. But Alan McCann, I've seen him a few times. He's okay, but he doesn't excite me as much as it excites others. But that could change. You could hit a run of form next season. I could turn around and say, "Yeah, the guy's a player." So it's bits like Lewis Ferguson. I don't think Lewis Ferguson's good enough, but a lot of people like him.
Yeah, look, it's that fine line, isn't it? I mean, I know speaking to Graham off camera a few times about like the coaching convention and how Rangers are now looking to almost have like a ladder effect at the club. So by bringing in somebody like, I don't know, like an Alan Campbell, for instance, would that stop Stephen Kelly's development into the Rangers first team? And is that something you want to stop? Because obviously he's somebody that's come through the academy. We've basically loaned him out to the Championship and the Premier League now. And possibly his next step is now to come into the first team. Or do we go and sign somebody like Alan Campbell, who's obviously played probably well over 100 games for Mullimo at this level, so he would maybe fit in quicker in terms of what we're looking to get? Or do we continue to stick with Stephen Kelly? Stevie, what do you think?
I mean, I suppose it's quite specific in each player. For what you kind of gather for what Rangers is going at the minute, they rate Kelly, and I think if the people at Rangers think highly enough of him, they're going to say, we prefer to give this guy a shot. He's been training with us for years. He's probably embedded in what the sort of ethos of the club is now. So I don't see why we would go out and get somebody else of that when we've got a quality or a youngster coming through who we've got high hopes for. So no, for me, no. I would happily go for to stick with Kelly, because to be honest, I don't like how much the lad. I know everyone, the guys are saying about Boy from Motherwell, but I don't see him coming in and really setting the world alight ways, to be honest. And it's the one position in the midfield is the one position, because I don't know how they're going to do it. Like we're talking about, like getting frees in for Germany and stuff like that. But I think there might be hope. Well, what I'm hoping for is every season there's going to be maybe a marquee signing of a couple of million of a quality player coming in right into the first team. And to me this year, I'd like that to be the midfield. So I would prefer to stick with Kelly, who get games here and there and maybe in the League Cup and get a run in the team, and then bring in a better player, maybe spend a few quid in midfield, to be honest, and do it that way. But I think the guys, I think you're right. I think there must be a sort of projection for years ahead, and maybe they're looking at like a guy who's going to be in the B team this year and thinking, well, like Davis is going to be away next year or somebody like that, and can we see him? Can we progress him through? They'll probably all be thinking like, get him a loan this year. He comes back next year, and it's always, you'd like to think there's always people thinking about it and looking ahead every so many years, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? You know, I suppose if you look at somebody like Scott Arfield, for instance, I think he's 33. So you do need to start looking at who's going to take over from Scott, and the same with Stephen Davis and Alan McGregor, etc., etc. So would it be more important to you that maybe we like sort of bring guys from within if they're good enough, obviously, or do you think it's just a matter of if there's a player in the marketplace, a bit like obviously Fashion Sakala, for instance, if he's there and he comes in with like obviously the international pedigree, the fact he scored goals in Belgium, there's no obviously financial outlay in terms of a transfer fee, but he might be earning decent wages. Is that something that like you're going to see more and more, Alan, do you think, from Rangers?
Aye. It could do. I think we need to. I was just looking at the comments here as you were talking. I don't know who it was. Somebody says about. Somebody said about we need to start trusting our own guys a little bit more and investing in them a little bit more. And I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah, Stephen says, the guy said, if the boy Kelly has been good enough, why not bring him in instead of going and signing another player or bringing somebody in that might be on higher wages? But that's not to say that we can't invest in the squad either. It's got to be a blended approach. We've got to do a bit of both.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I mean, it's striking that balance, isn't it? It's trying to find. Me, for instance, there's one of the guys commenting about Haggarty. We obviously brought in Haggarty last summer. You know, we obviously had to pay a decent fee for Giannis, and we're probably playing him, you know, pretty decent wages as well. But then I think that's one of those signings that you've got to make, because you see the quality, you see what he brings to the team. And I say him a bit like obviously Ozcan, he's obviously just won the Euros with Germany. So he's been part of that German under-21 team that won the Euros. And I think anybody that saw them play, they were bloody impressive, to be honest. You know, some of the football they play, the quality they've got coming through in Germany, again, looks very, very, very impressive, which is probably a bit ominous for the next kind of 5 or 10 years when you see the quality they have. But I mean, obviously, like sort of be me doing the academy stuff on Twitter, I want to see us like bring through Josh McPakes and Leon Kings and Stephen Kelly's and Kai Kennedy's. So I'll always have that lack of impartiality, shall we say. You know, I mean, I'll always want to see our young guys playing ahead of somebody from abroad. But I'm not stupid enough to think that if there's an exceptional player out there that the club can bring in, that they're not going to do it, because that's just how Rangers are. If somebody like Oscan or Veerman or Haroy, can come in and make us better, it would be silly not to make that move. And I think that's just something that, for all we want to see young players develop, like what Nathan Patterson has done this year, we have to just accept that a club the size of Rangers has to keep moving forward. And now that we're in the Champions League qualifiers, it's hugely important that we hopefully make the group stages next season. That's obviously a huge thing for us. Right, moving on to the next kind of part of the show, talking about Rangers players at the Euros. I know we've only got like a handful of guys there. Who do you think will have the biggest Euros? I'll come to you first, Scott.
I think probably the three guys up with the two in the Scotland team, to be fair. Like, I don't think the boys in the Scotland team will get a chance. Patterson, in my opinion, he's not played many games for us, but he's got ability. And looking at the Scotland squad, he's probably their best fullback, apart from maybe Robertson, but that side anyway. So I would play Nathan. But I don't think Clark will. Clark will go with O'Donnell, who, in my opinion, he's a decent football player. Stephen O'Donnell, but that's it. He's decent. I don't think he's at a national class, but I know Scotland's not got a lot of options. But Nathan being there, he should be given a chance. John McLaughlin is unlucky, but Marshall's probably the better keeper. But I think probably Barisic playing with Croatia. I think Croatia's got a really good side, and I think he'll do really well with him. Sweden, I'm not too sure of, and same with Finland, but I think Barisic will do well with Croatia.
Yeah, a few of the guys that obviously kind of put their comments in there. One of the guys, RFC55, saying Nathan Patterson. Cameron Kellas, RFC, saying Glenn Kamara. What about yourself, Alan? Who do you think will be the standout performer from a Rangers point of view?
It's hard to predict. I'm just having a look at the groups now. I think you've got to look at, first of all, who's going to start, because I think you're right. As much as we want Patterson to start, I can't see Clark doing it. McLaughlin will get a game. So your starters are Helander, Kamara and Barisic. And then you've got to look at who's going to get out of their group. I don't think Finland will get out of their group. Croatia and Sweden. Croatia should, and Sweden have got a great chance. Sweden are coming up against a Spain team that's preparations have fell to bits in the last couple of weeks. Their entire team's in isolation. They've got 2 or 3 players going to miss the opening game, which I think is against Sweden. Check that it is on Monday. So if Sweden can take advantage of that and get out of the group, depending on who they get in the next round, they could have a decent tournament. They've got a decent team. The centre forward, Isaac's got a good future in front of him, and so I think Philip Hollander might have, if he can get into the team and keep his place in the team, which he should. I think he could have a really good Euros. And Barisic is the other one that you expect to play, and Croatia should get out of that group easily. If they don't, there's something wrong with the Croatian team. But Hollander and Barisic for me are going to hit big Euros, I think.
Stevie, coming to you next. Obviously, one of the guys, CGM55, is saying Patterson showed more than 20 minutes, and O'Donnell has these 20 caps. I mean, Nathan obviously did come on and do really well. Is it just one of those things with Nathan, though, that you get the feeling that Steve Clark's is going to stick with the kind of tried and trusted guys that he's used to get to this point?
I think so. There's probably a wee bit of loyalty there for Clark as well. I think he's played O'Donnell the last few games, and maybe he's thinking that he's got to give him the start anyway, at least in the first game, and unless anything seriously goes wrong or picks up an ego or something like that and can't make a game, I can't really see Patterson getting in. But I agree with the comment there, because I watched the highlights of the last game, and the first 60 odd minutes it was so lopsided in the left hand side for Scotland until Patterson came on, I felt, and actually gave us a different sort of aspect. He's so keen and so willing to get forward. It's nice to see it, actually. It's that enthusiasm of a young guy that he just wants to get on the ball and show how good he is, and I would love to see him. I'd love to see him get game time, but if he doesn't, then I suppose at least the experience of being there and being in a competition is going to help him and push him on and playing with different players and I seen a wee clip in, I think it was on Twitter, one of the goals he scored. Like, I get the feeling it was one of the goals he scored in training. I just get the feeling he just wants to go there and show he can play. He just seems like that sort of guy. Like, he just wants to. It was the same when he came on there. I think he was like, first of all, I've got 20 minutes. I need to show what I can do here. And it's great to see. And I think he would. I think he'd probably make mistakes as well if he got game time. But I think he would thrive in that environment. And he's got that keenness to go on and do well. So I'd love to see him play. But if not, the experience will do him good anyway.
Yeah, when you look at the guys that are going to start, I've always really enjoyed watching Croatia. I enjoy the way that they try and play the game. I think, like Barisic, the way that he plays for Rangers, if he plays like that for Croatia, I think he'll have a really good Euros. Glenn Kamara's just going to do all the easy things because he's so good at them. And I just think if he has one or two standout games, it's probably going to entice more teams to have a sniff, and have a look at him, which for us obviously isn't a good thing, but you've got to appreciate quality, and that's exactly what Glenn is. I do worry for the two Scottish guys. I don't know how much we'll see of those two. Big Helander, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he does against that standard. Obviously, he had a bit of a tough time against Benfica. But out with that, he's been pretty solid for us. He's been pretty reliable. And you tend to find that like Sweden and Denmark are always quite tough to break down. They have a certain style of play. But I think for me, I guess if Glenn Kamara has a good Euros, I think he'll be the exceptional player for us in terms of the Rangers players there. But I hope all the lads do well, and I hope they all get some type of minutes, especially Nathan. He's obviously just a young kid. He's broke into the squad. I would love to see Clark give him a go, especially against England, because I think Nathan would love that. I think Nathan against some of their wingers would be an experience, and that's exactly what we want to give Nathan in the coming years. Right, moving on.
Well, before you move on, I was scrolling through the comments here and I seen a good question that I don't know the answer to, and I was wondering if any of you did. It's for Stewart Keane, and it says, "Is there going to be any problem signing players? Do they need work permits as we are now out of the EU?" Obviously, you were talking about where we're going to be able to find these young players, these gems, and bring them in and sell them. Are we going to have any issues now because obviously we're out of the EU?
Right, no, that's okay, mate. We'll try and answer that question. My understanding is that obviously there's like a number system. So if you fall within, I think it's like the first 50 or 75 top ranked countries, it becomes a little bit easier. And then if you've played enough of the games for like the under 21s or the first team at national level, that obviously helps. Or if you're an exceptional talent, which I think seems to be the one that a lot of clubs will try and use, or somebody that can add something to the league. Because I think that's what Aberdeen are going to do with this new guy they're trying to sign from America. They're going to say that he's of a higher standard than the players in the league, and he'll help develop young players. And it's always been one of the arguments over the years.
That's why he's signing for Aberdeen now.
No, I think the system itself has been fundamentally wrong for a long, long time. When you think that all the years ago we got knocked back for Jardel, and yet we've had guys being given work permits who have came from like Guatemala and sort of random countries where like they barely play an international, and yet we get knocked back for one of the top goal scorers in European football. And then I think, was it not something silly like years ago that St Johnstone tried to get a work permit for one of the Trinidad and Tobago guys, and it got rejected, but then a couple of weeks later Dundee United tried and they signed them because it was a different panel.
Who was that? Was it Gomez?
Scotland? It may have been Jason Scotland, or it was another one of the Trinidad guys. But the whole work permit system seems to be fundamentally flawed. I get the feeling that as long as you've had enough sort of international experience, you'll probably be okay. And then if the worst comes to the worst, you take it to appeal, and then you go down the exceptional talent route if they're young, or you go down the route of these players will add something to Scottish football. But in reality, only one of every 7 or 8 probably do. But they'll still get their work permit. They'll still be here. I don't really see much changing, if I'm totally honest. I think it's obviously going to hurt the academy, because I don't think you can sign players now until they're 18, which might cause some issues for Rangers. But as long as the young Scottish players are still coming through and they can sign guys from England and Northern Ireland, then I don't think it's really going to be that much an issue from that perspective. But if you try and sign guys from France or Germany or Holland, then I think they have to be 18. That's my understanding of the rules, but don't quote me on these things because they seem to be changing all the time. And I think that's something we'll need to keep an eye on.
I think even outside the laws of football, there'll be laws and legislation about freedom of movement and things like that at government level. So it's not something that I've got an awful lot of knowledge on either. So it's a difficult question to answer. But you're right. I think there'll be a way around. There'll be a way around most things in the future, especially in Scotland.
Just like to say, Willie, but we're not out of the EU. We're still in the EU. We're just not part of EU customs and exiles and stuff.
No, don't you start with that. No, I'm just saying, but obviously from a football point of view, I don't see it changing a lot. I don't think it's going to change. Like players coming to this country. Like, I think this guy at Aberdeen, I think he's got like 1 or 2 American caps, and he's like 28. So like he wouldn't like sort of fall into the remit of like sort of qualifying automatically. So they're going to have to go to appeal. But it tends to be that most of these ones that go to appeal tend to have them accepted and they end up signing anyway. So I don't really think it's going to change that much, to be honest. And it's one of those subjects that I don't think enough of us have got enough knowledge of it to sit and say, for instance, that we know exactly how that's going to work. So
Martin just wanted to embarrass us there. That's the only reason he came on. He thought, there's a question, the guy's only going to have a fucking clue.
Exactly. Since we get this time, I can't remember what one of the boys it was that brought it up in the group chat. It was about the new B team head coach. Obviously, Kevin Thompson's left the club since we were last on, I believe, and he's obviously went to Celtic Hearts. At the moment, the club don't have a B team head coach. Brian Gilmer is still part of that system, but the club obviously hasn't confirmed if they're going to move somebody from within or somebody from out with the club. Is there any names for you, Scott, that you think would be a nice fit at Lowland League level that would obviously help these young players develop?
I think it depends what the club are looking for. I mean, they're going to go with somebody experienced. They're looking for maybe an ex-player to come in and take over, or maybe promote from within. It depends what they're looking for. I mean, Kevin Thompson was an ex-player who came to Rangers, but he didn't really have many badges, did he? And he done them all there and done really well. And that's look at him just now. So they can maybe look at an ex-player. It's maybe stays local and go down that route, or promote somebody within it. Knows the lads and they know him. So I'm not sure somebody's mentioned Neil McCann there, which is a good shout. But I know Neil was involved with Inverness. I don't know how long he's going to stay there for because John Robertson was unwell, wasn't he? So I don't really know what the script is with Neil, but Neil would be a good shout, Neil McCann.
What about yourself, Stevie? Is there any like candidates that you kind of see that could come in and help the club, but also develop the young players? Because that's obviously going to be the priority in the Lowland League.
Well, the name I kind of thought of was Neil McCann. I don't know how big a task that would be to get him in, and if he would really want to be going playing or managing a team in the Lowland League. But for any time you hear him speaking, the way he comes across, he's got the way. I think he'd be good for us. I think he knows the game well tactically, and I think he's got the drive to push these players on. And I'd love to see it. I was gutted when Thompson left, to be honest, because I thought it was great. It would have been a great job for him. Again, as another guy who speaks well and knows the game, and I think he's got that sort of winning mentality similar to McCann that would be good to instill into the younger players. So I don't know, because when it first came up, I thought it may be a good thing to get a younger manager in who has got links to the club, and we can also say to him, look, do well, we can maybe in a few years, this is like another pathway to the management team sort of thing, like other clubs do in Europe. So unless the club have earmarked a younger guy out there who they think could maybe go on and do a good job, I don't know. But McCann's definitely a shout. I just don't know if we'd be able to entice him to do it, but a guy who speaks well and knows it and obviously knows the game.
Alan, what about yourself, mate? Any outstanding candidates for you, maybe that's maybe out of work right now, or somebody at another club that you think would come in and be a good fit?
I really don't know. McCann was the first name that came to me as well. But as the guys have said, what his future is going to look like, nobody will answer that bar him. I did think for a brief minute a couple of weeks ago Barry Ferguson when I saw he left Celtic, but he's obviously went to Alloa now. So I don't know what other. I'm just trying to rack my brains here to think of other ex-players that are making noises about going into coaching. I know he's still playing, but Lee Wallace was a name I heard about going into coaching a couple of weeks ago as well. I don't know if I don't know where he's at with his playing career, if he's looking to retire. But maybe it's if he was looking to retire, it might be a job for him. Come up, start your coaching career at Rangers. There's the B team. But other than that, I can't really think anybody off the top of my head.
I think that's a great show, actually.
Yeah, I think the tough thing is that also the Lowland League's going to have, I think it's around about 36, 38 games. So it's not like Defoe could still play for the first
full-time
team
job
and be the head coach. You know what I mean? It'd be too much. So I think it's basically got to be somebody that's no longer playing. It's got to be somebody that's going to have their full focus on being the head coach of, the Colts team. Because when you throw in the Challenge Cup, when you throw in the league, you've obviously got players that are going to be kind of dropping in and out of the 18s and the Colts. It's going to be a lot of work for somebody. There's going to be a lot of training time on the training pitch. Lobby Kraz is an interesting one. He's obviously left the club since, was that about a year and a bit ago now he left. I don't know if we would go back to him. Somebody that's at the club at the moment who could come in and do the job would be Graham Murray. Because at the end of the day, the league season actually starts in the 17th of July, I think it is. And I think the boys report back in 2.5 weeks' time. So I would imagine the club would like to have somebody in place for the boys sort of reporting back, which is only, as I say, about 2.5 weeks away. And then they've only got a 3 week window before the league starts. So I would imagine if you're a coach, obviously you want to come in and sort of implement your kind of ways of thinking and how you do things, even though there's a structure at the club in terms of this is how we play, this is our formation, this is how Rangers will play from 16s, 18s into the first team, etc. But it's going to be a big ask, I think. And I think the exciting thing for me is I'm looking forward to the Lowland League starting as much as I'm excited about watching Rangers play in the Champions League qualifiers. There's probably guys at home going, you're just mental. But I enjoy watching the lads play. I think playing in the Lowland League is going to be a great experience for them. Something that they're not going to get playing development games or reserve games. Stevie, what do you think the guys will get out of playing in the Lowland League?
I think they'll get an absolute fight on the park, to be honest. I think it's going to be a tough one for them, and it's good. And that's what I want for them in a sense. I want them to be going up against guys who are looking at Rangers going, I want to beat them today. And it's going to be a tough game every single one they've got. And I hope they can match them in that sense and also bring the quality they've obviously they're going to have and actually be able to play a wee bit. I'm totally the same with you, William. I'm looking forward to being able to try and navigate the games, to be able to go see the first team and also go see some of the B games, to be honest, next year. It's really exciting, that aspect of it. But I think it'll be tough. These guys will be wanting to beat Rangers. There should be a big game for every player down there that's playing against it, even though it's a B team. And they probably wouldn't like these young guys coming up and getting beat off a younger team. And I just don't know how do you think they'll play it in a sense. Because obviously, do you think it'll be 18-year-olds? I like it because obviously they want to get some of the guys out and loan and all that side of things. I just wonder how they'll play it.
Yeah, look, it's tough. We have a Rangers under-19 team primarily, maybe with a handful of under-20s. So it is going to be a young team that's going to play at that level. Obviously, there is still some exceptional teams at that level. Like East Kilbride, I think, are in there. And they've obviously kind of spent some decent amount of money. Right. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how our lads cope. A lot of them are going to be going from under-18 football straight into the Lowland League. And, they're probably going to get to see the dirty side of the game. I think yesterday or the day before, the East Kilbride announced the signing of Lee Miller.
I've seen that.
Lee Miller's he's mid to late 30s. Somebody like sort of Lewis McKinnon, who's only 17 years old. He's come over from Northern Ireland. Him playing against Lee Miller, he'll have never experienced that in his life before. He's probably going to get a few elbows. He's probably going to get the old-fashioned tricks that you maybe don't really see that side of the game as much now, but he's going to learn a hell of a lot playing at that level. Scotty, what do you think? You obviously watch a lot of young guys coming through. What do you think it'll be like for the boys playing in the Lowland League?
I think it'll be really good for them because some academy football, yourself, some of it's not really. There's not a lot of physicalness in it because they're told not to tackle at times, especially down in England. So when you watch it, you think to yourself, it's a lot of good football play, but not a lot of aggression. But in the leagues, like Stephen said, Rangers will be a scout for every team because everybody want to beat Rangers no matter what age group it is. And the lads will learn, it'll toughen them up. But another name I thought maybe for David Robertson. I know he's over, was it India or something? But he's done his stuff, and I think he'd be a really good choice for Rangers guy. He's got makings a really good manager. So, but I think the World League's a great idea.
Sorry, guys, you can't talk about David Robertson and me not jump in. David Robertson would be a fantastic addition to the Rangers youth side. Well, I can't think of anybody better than David Robertson.
No, I'm not having it, mate. You skip back off the screen and we'll move on to somebody else.
Right, listen, just before I do, and I know you're ready to kind of wrap it up, but I've got one more question. But listen, if David Robertson somehow manages to click on this, please put your name forward. David Robertson is my all-time hero, and I love him so much. Final question, guys. Kamara says he's happy at Rangers. Does that mean a contract's imminent? And of course, it was spoke about, I think I retweeted it as well, that we could possibly have a friendly against Liverpool. Is this just a rumour? So I'll leave the two with you. And of course, David Robertson is the next Rangers youth manager. Absolutely 100%. Well done, Scott.
Right, honestly, see if you know anybody that's on the pods, please do not mention David Robertson because he always wants to talk about him. It really is. It's actually bordering on stalking, in my opinion.
Because they go away at Marseille, remember?
I think that's why he moved
I think it's difficult with Glenn. I think he's clearly a smart lad. I think if he's an exceptional Euros, which I think most of us think he will, it's going to be really difficult to keep a hold of him if the clubs start to throw silly money at us. On that front, I'm not too sure. We'll see come the summer. I would love to see him re-sign again. I really would. I just, in the back of my mind, I just keep having that kind of worry that somebody's going to come in and bid 15, 20 million pounds and we're just going to have to kind of move on at some point. So, yeah, that would be kind of heartbreaking. In terms of the Liverpool rumour, I'm sure one of the guys from Heart and Hand confirmed that wasn't something that Rangers were looking at. I mean, obviously these things can change. I mean, the last I'd heard, I think there was talk about Rangers going to Portugal and that there was going to be some behind closed door games over there. And then I think there's talk about maybe kind of 1 or 2 games over here. But yeah, again, a lot of these are rumoured. The club haven't come out and confirmed anything. There's not even been that much come out of the academy in terms of like fixtures. So hopefully that will come out soon. So what is it, the 17th of this month the fixtures come out in it? 17th?
Is it this month?
Yeah. So I'd imagine when they come out, the club will maybe then come out and sort of release all the pre-season. Maybe they'll try and stay clear of the whole Portugal thing now because that's obviously went from, what is it, like the green to amber. I mean, I'm just confused with all the holiday places now. It's going to bypass me. I think I'm going to Edinburgh. That'll be about as far as I get probably in Scotland this year. But yeah, I don't know if the Liverpool friendly will happen. But in terms of Glenn, I would love to see Glenn stay. What about yourself, Alan?
I'd love to see Glenn stay. Before I guess make my next comment, and I get slaughtered in the comments for it. I want to see Glenn. I want to see Glenn Kamara stay at Rangers. But I read the comments, and I know you can read things, you can take things differently. But the language that was used kind of worried me a wee bit because he said, "Yeah, I'm happy at Rangers, and I'm a Rangers player, and until I'm told otherwise." And for me, that was the I want to stay at Rangers. My future's at Rangers. I'm at Rangers for now. So call me cynical, but that kind of put the wee seed doubt in my mind that there's something going to happen for him this summer. But absolutely, I don't want it to go. I want him to stay. I think he's a great player. I think we're a better team when Glenn Kamara plays. But it was just it was the language that was used. I just thought that sort of suggests to me that something's going to happen for him this summer. And if it does, good luck to him. But I hope it does now.
Yeah, I think as we've said on here a few times, the club are obviously smart enough to know when players are going to be going. So, I mean, if the club are aware that Glenn is potentially looking at moving on this summer, maybe that's why we're being linked to guys like Veerman and Haroy and Ozcan and Lepinjika. If that's how you say it.
I think you're making some of them up.
Yeah, so, I mean, if that's the case, then, the club are working towards like another cycle, and that's how it's got to be. And the same with Barisic, we've obviously got like James Maxwell coming through at the academy, or do you go out and sign another left back? I think the club are well prepared for what's coming this summer. I think they're well aware that there's interest in players. I mean, you would have to be stupid not to want to, sign somebody like Glenn Kamara. I think he would fit in at most clubs. He's just a technically very, very good player. Borna, at his age, might be looking for one big pay. This might be his last big contract coming up. Clearly, we can't offer him 50, 60 grand a week, but an English team could. A top Spanish team probably could, a German team probably could, and that's where maybe we can fall short on that. And at times, as a fan base, you've just maybe got to accept that at his age, the fact that he spent most of his career in Croatia, that one last big payday could basically allow him to retire once he finishes playing football. And, it's hard to then tell a player not to do that, because if somebody chapped on my door and says, look, mate, I'm going to quadruple your wages, I mean, I'll be out the door quicker and leaving the wife behind in the house, but I mean, I'm about the door running down the street. So I don't know how, a player would feel if that happened, but I think that's just the nature of football. Yeah, look, I agree with Andrew. I think we will see at least one or two players cashed in on this summer. I know we don't want to lose anybody, but Stevie, what do you think, mate? Do you expect to lose people this summer?
Sadly, I think so, and I think the one will probably be Kamara, to be honest. I did read his comments as well, and as maybe I was hearing or reading what I wanted to sort of take from it, because I know he went on and elaborated a wee bit. He says, he's about Champions League and retaining the title, and I thought, maybe he's up for staying, but it's probably what I wanted to hear rather than what I believe. I think he's probably the one to maybe go. I agree with what you're saying. It's similar. I think maybe we spoke about it before, in the sense that he's probably looking for maybe a bigger contract for where he's been at before. And I totally agree with you. I think Glenn Kamara, if he goes into maybe a better starting 11 of players, I think he would get better again. To me, he seems the sort of guy, if you get better players around him, he's just going to shine even more, to be honest. And there's no many teams I don't think Kamara can really get to. And I rate him so highly. I think he's got so much potential. I'd love to see him go as far as he can really go, to be honest. But I think he'll probably be the one, and maybe Barisic as well. But as long as we get the right, I don't begrudge these guys. Let's see if we get the right figures in for them, and we can invest some into the team and also keep ourselves ticking over. Otherwise, that's the way to go forward, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we all agree with Stevie. I think it's hard to argue that. We're all in the same boat here. We all want to keep our players. We would love to keep this team together for as long as possible, especially when they're winning league titles. But, it's a business. Players are going to come, players are going to go. We'll certainly celebrate these guys when they go as well, because we'll appreciate what they did for us last season. That team will not be forgotten by a lot of Rangers fans for quite a while. So these guys, in a lot of people's eyes, will be legends just for what they did last season. Not saying they're legends in terms of the time they spent at the club and the games they've played, but what they did last season meant a lot to a lot of supporters. So if anybody does move on this summer, we'll obviously wish them all the best. Right, I think that just about does us. It's nearly 8 o'clock. I'm getting a bit peckish, to be honest. Don't know about anybody else. So we'll love yous and leave yous. Thanks very much for tuning in. Hopefully see yous again next week, and keep an eye out for the Ben Williamson interview. Hoping to get that done tomorrow night, all being well. Hope yous enjoy what Ben has to say. I'm really excited for the future with Ben. Hopefully he becomes the Rangers first team player. So thanks again for listening in, guys. Cheers, and take care of yourselves.